The silence in the living room was a physical weight. It pressed down on Chloe Turner, heavy as a tombstone. She sat on the edge of a cream-colored sofa, her spine ramrod straight, her hands clenched in her lap. The leather was cold against her skin, mirroring the ice that had taken root in her veins. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the prize-winning roses of the Carlisle estate were withered husks, their brown petals clinging stubbornly to thorny stems. They looked the way she felt. Dead inside. Her gaze dropped. Unconsciously, her fingers drifted to her stomach, pressing lightly against the flat, top plane beneath her silk blouse. A flicker of something not warmth, not yet, but a fragile, secret pulse of life stirred deep within her. It was the only thing that felt real in this gilded cage. The click of a door handle shattered the stillness. Anna Kowalski, the head housekeeper, entered. Her face was a mask of professional neutrality, but her eyes wouldn't meet Chloe's. She stepped aside, holding the door for the two women who followed. Eleanor Carlisle swept in first, the matriarch of the Carlisle clan, her silver hair styled in an impeccable chignon, her face frozen in an expression of regal disdain. She moved as if the very air in her own home was an inconvenience. Tucked into the crook of Eleanor's arm was Harmony Holder, the B-list actress. Julian's mistress was glowing. Her smile was a weapon, sharp and triumphant, and she surveyed the room as if she were already its queen. Eleanor stopped directly in front of Chloe, her gaze sweeping over her daughter-in-law with a detached appraisal one might give a piece of furniture about to be discarded. Harmony tightened her grip on Eleanor's arm, a possessive, familiar gesture that screamed of victory. It was a performance, and Chloe was the unwilling audience. Smack! The sound was sharp, obscene in the quiet room. A thick manila folder landed on the marble coffee table, its impact echoing the sudden, violent lurch of Chloe's heart. Her eyes fixed on the bold, black letters on the cover. Divorce agreement! The words swam before her eyes. A wave of nausea washed over her. She forced her head up, her voice a dry rasp. Where's Julian? I need to talk to him. Harmony let out a soft, condescending laugh. She patted her own stomach, a stomach that was still as flat as Chloe's, but was presented as a sacred vessel. Jules is busy, she purred. After all, we have to think about the heir to the Carlisle family now. The floor dropped out from under Chloe. The secret pulse inside her went cold. She stared at Harmony, at the blatant, venomous lie worn as a badge of honor. Eleanor's voice was like chipping ice. According to your prenuptial agreement, you have failed to produce an heir within 3 years of marriage. Now that Harmony is carrying Julian's child, you are required to leave. She gestured dismissively at the folder. The terms are clear. You leave with nothing. Sign it. Don't make this more unpleasant than it needs to be. Chloe looked from Eleanor's cold fury to Harmony's smug smile. The years of quiet suffering, of being the perfect, docile wife, of enduring the snubs and the loneliness, it all coalesced into a single, burning point of rage. Slowly, deliberately, she rose to her feet. Her back straightened, a steel rod forged in the sudden fire. Her green eyes, usually soft as moss, now glinted like shattered glass. She picked up the agreement. Her fingers didn't tremble. She flipped through the pages, the rustle of paper the only sound, until she found what she was looking for. She pointed a single, steady finger at a line of text. Her voice, when she spoke, was not loud, but it cut through the oppressive atmosphere with surgical precision. Clause 7, she said, her tone dangerously calm. In the event of a divorce resulting from infidelity on the part of the husband, the wife is entitled to a compensation of $100 million. Harmony's triumphant smile faltered. A flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. She hadn't expected a fight. Eleanor's perfectly sculpted eyebrows drew together in a frown. This was not part of the script. A bitter, humorless smile touched Chloe's lips. Miss Holder has been publicly styling herself as Julian's mistress for months. Now she claims to be pregnant with his child. Is that not irrefutable proof of his infidelity? She tossed the agreement back onto the table. The sound echoed the first. Transfer $100 million to my account, Chloe stated, her voice ringing with newfound power. And I will sign immediately. Harmony's face contorted with fury, her body trembling. She opened her mouth to screech, but a sharp look from Eleanor silenced her. Just as the older woman was about to speak, the grand double doors to the living room were pushed open. A tall, powerful silhouette filled the doorway, bringing a chill of the outside air with him. Julian Carlyle was home. His deep, blue-gray eyes, the color of a storm-tossed sea, swept across the room, taking in the scene. His mother's fury, Harmony's distress, and finally, Chloe. Harmony immediately transformed, her face crumbling into a mask of tearful victimhood. She rushed towards him. Jules, you're back. Chloe, she's... Julian's gaze remained locked on Chloe's defiant face, then dropped to the divorce agreement on the table. He didn't acknowledge Harmony's clinging presence. He walked towards Chloe, each step measured, his presence sucking the oxygen from the room. The air grew thick, heavy with a pressure that made it hard to breathe. He stopped a foot in front of her. His shadow fell over her, cold and immense. His voice, when he finally spoke, was a shard of ice plunged directly into her heart. 100 million? He asked, his tone laced with a chilling, absolute contempt. Are you even worthy? The world fractured. Julian's words were the hammer blow that shattered the last of Chloe's composure. A laugh, brittle and broken, escaped her lips. It was a sound of pure self-mockery. She met his cold, stormy eyes, the fire in her own dimming to embers of despair. I was carrying your child, Julian. Where were you then? And now you have the audacity to question my worth. The temperature in the room plummeted. If his eyes were cold before, they were now glaciers. He reached into the inner pocket of his tailored suit jacket and pulled out a thin stack of photographs. He didn't hand them to her. He threw them. They scattered across the marble table and the plush rug, a series of glossy, damning images. Chloe and a man standing outside a restaurant. The angle was intimate, the man's hand on her arm, his face close to hers as they spoke. Julian's voice was laced with a disgust so profound it was almost physical. You dare mention a child? Chloe, the one who cheated was you. She stared at the photos, her mind reeling. The man was a friend of her brother, Aiden the doctor. She had been asking him for advice, desperate for a specialist who could help with Aiden's deteriorating condition. That's not what it looks like, she began, her voice shaking. He's Dash. Enough. Julian cut her off, his voice ablaze. I don't want to hear your lies. He turned to his mother, his expression unreadable. Write her a check for $100 million. Eleanor and Harmony both froze, stunned into silence. Julian's gaze returned to Chloe, devoid of any warmth, any memory of the 3 years they had shared. I'm giving you this money not because you deserve it, he said, each word a carefully aimed dart, but so you can take your scandal and disappear from my world forever. That was it. That was the final, fatal wound. He had already judged and condemned her. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a verdict. 1 week ago. The bathroom was filled with steam. Chloe stood before the mirror, her hand trembling as she held the small plastic stick. 2 pink lines. Stark and undeniable. Joy, fierce and overwhelming, had flooded her. It was a dizzying, terrifying wave. After 3 years of empty hope, of quiet disappointment, of feeling like a failure, finally, she had wanted to give him a surprise. A real one. Something to bridge the growing chasm between them. She'd gone to the doctor alone, wanting to be absolutely sure. The ultrasound, a grainy black and white image of a tiny, flickering speck. It was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. She had carefully placed the report in a special envelope, tucked away in her purse. She planned to give it to him on their wedding anniversary. A new beginning. The memory evaporated, leaving only the bitter cold of the present. Chloe looked at Julian, standing there as Harmony clung to his arm, a united front against her. Her heart, which had soared with such hope only days ago, now felt like a stone in her chest. Eleanor, recovering from her shock, gave a curt nod to the housekeeper. A satisfied, triumphant smile spread across her face. The money was nothing. Getting rid of Chloe was everything. Harmony pressed herself against Julian's side, her eyes, full of venomous victory, locked on Chloe. The check was brought in on a silver tray. Julian took the pen, his signature a series of sharp, angry slashes of ink. He pushed the check and the pen across the table. "Sign it," he commanded. Chloe looked at the slip of paper. $100 million. Not compensation. Hush money. The price of her silence, her dignity, her life. Her fingers, numb and cold, picked up the pen. They felt clumsy, disconnected from her body. She stared at the signature line, her vision blurring with unshed tears. Then, she blinked them away. She would not give them the satisfaction of seeing her cry. Her hand moved, swift and sure. She signed her name Chloe, turn of the loops and lines as sharp and final as a guillotine's fall. She dropped the pen on the table. It clattered loudly in the renewed silence. She picked up the check, folded it once, and slipped it into her pocket. Without another glance at the man she had loved, at the woman who had destroyed her, at the mother-in-law who had despised her, she turned. She walked out of the room. Each step was a conscious effort, a severing of a tie. She walked out of the living room, through the grand foyer, and towards the sweeping staircase. Her back was straight, her head held high. A queen abdicating a throne of lies. Julian watched her go, his jaw tight. A muscle twitched in his cheek. He watched her until she disappeared from view, and an unfamiliar, deeply unsettling irritation coiled in his gut. It was a phantom limb, an ache for something that was no longer there. Harmony tugged on his arm, her voice cloying. "Jules, we can finally be together." Julian didn't look at her. His eyes remained fixed on the empty space where Chloe had just been. Was all he said. Chloe closed the bedroom door behind her. The click of the latch was a sound of finality. The strength that had carried her through the foyer evaporated. Her legs gave out, and she slid down the smooth wood of the door to the floor, her body racked with silent, heaving sobs. She pulled the folded check from her pocket. Her fingers tightened around it, the paper crumpling against her palm. She stared at it, at the cruel sum that was meant to erase her. Then, with a shaky breath, she smoothed it flat and tucked it carefully into the inner pocket of her purse. It was tainted money, blood money, but it was also a tool. And tools, she knew, could be turned against those who wielded them. Her hand fumbled deeper into her purse, her fingers closing around a small, crisp envelope. She pulled out the ultrasound report, the black and white photo, the tiny flicker of life. Her baby. Tears streamed down her face, hot and furious. Tears for her own stupidity, for the love she had wasted. Tears for this innocent, unborn child who had just lost a father it would never know. The image of Julian's cold face, of Harmony's triumphant smirk, burned in her mind. The grief curdled, twisting into a white-hot, all-consuming hatred. She scrambled to her feet. With a guttural cry of rage, she ripped the ultrasound report to shreds. The pieces fluttered to the ground like bitter confetti, a blizzard of broken dreams. "I will raise you," she whispered to her belly, her voice raw. "I will protect you, and we will have nothing to do with the Carlyle family. Ever." The vow settled in her soul, hard and permanent as diamond. A new energy surged through her. She began to pack, her movements swift, efficient, and ruthless. She took only what was hers. Clothes Julian had never bought her. Books from her college days, a small, framed photo of her and her brother, Aiden. Nothing that held a memory of this house. Her purse, with a check folded inside its inner pocket, she kept close. A soft knock came at the door. It was Anna, the housekeeper, holding a glass of warm milk on a small tray. Her eyes darted around the room, avoiding Chloe's. "Madam, Mr. Carlyle asked that you have this and rest. He has arranged for a car to take you away in the morning." Chloe was too exhausted to question it. Her throat was raw. Her body ached. She took the glass without a word and drank it all in one go. The creamy liquid was cloyingly sweet. A few minutes later, a heavy drowsiness washed over her. The room began to tilt. Her limbs felt like lead. She stumbled towards the bed, her mind foggy, and collapsed onto the mattress. Her purse slipped from her grasp, landing on the floor beside the bed. In the last moment of fading consciousness, she saw Anna's face peering in from the doorway. The housekeeper's lips were pulled back in a strange, grotesque smile. Then she heard the distinct, metallic click of a key turning in the lock from the outside. Darkness took her. She woke to a burning sensation in her throat. Her lungs screamed for air. She coughed, a racking, painful spasm that sent daggers of pain through her chest. The air was thick, acrid, and hot. Her eyes flew open. Fire! The room was bathed in a terrifying orange glow. Flames licked up the silk curtains, devouring them with a hungry roar. Black smoke billowed from the ceiling, a choking, poisonous cloud. She scrambled off the bed and ran to the door, twisting the handle. It didn't budge. She threw her shoulder against it. It was solid, unmoving, locked. Panic, cold and sharp, seized her. This wasn't an accident. This was murder. They weren't just kicking her out. They were erasing her. But then, a fiercer instinct roared to life, drowning out the fear. The primal, ferocious power of a mother protecting her child. She would not die here. Her baby would not die here. She grabbed her purse from the floor, slinging the strap across her body. Then she seized a heavy armchair, adrenaline flooding her system. With a scream of pure rage, she heaved it towards the large window. The glass exploded outwards in a shower of glittering shards. Cool night air rushed in, feeding the flames. The fire surged, a beast unleashed. It was a 2-story drop to the stone terrace below. The heat was unbearable, scorching her skin. The flames were at her back, reaching for her. She didn't hesitate. She ripped a heavy velvet curtain from its rod, wrapping it around herself as a makeshift shield. She climbed onto the wide windowsill, her heart hammering against her ribs. Her purse was still strapped securely across her body, a lifeline containing the check and her identification. For 1 second, she looked down at the hard, unforgiving stone. Then she jumped, curling her body instinctively around her abdomen. The impact was a universe of pain. A sickening crack echoed in her ears. Sharp, searing agony shot up her leg. Glass from the shattered window sliced into her arm, and she felt the warm gush of blood. She lay on the cold stone, gasping, every nerve ending screaming. But she was alive. Her purse was still with her, the strap digging into her shoulder. She pushed herself up, ignoring the waves of agony. She had to get away. She looked back up at the room she had just escaped. It was now a raging inferno, a fiery mouth consuming her past. And in the shadows of the garden, just beyond the reach of the firelight, she saw a figure. Harmony Holder. Even from this distance, Chloe could see the cold, satisfied smile on her face. A hatred so pure and potent it burned hotter than the flames surged through Chloe. It was a fuel, a promise. I will survive. I will come back, and I will destroy you. She struggled to her feet, her body a symphony of pain. She limped away from the burning mansion, away from the life that had been stolen from her. One hand clutched her purse, the other pressed protectively over her belly. She vanished into the darkness of the night. The next day, news outlets reported a tragic fire at the Carlyle estate. The former Mrs. Carlyle, Chloe Turner, was declared dead. Her body, they said, was consumed by the blaze, leaving nothing behind.